In this next fight, we got the debut of Yamato Nishikawa in the UFC. He's 19 years old, so that's pretty cool. And he's getting an opportunity here. He's jumping in on short notice. And he's already had 30 pro MMA fights. He's on a 14-fight winning streak. He went pro at 15 years old. And his career got off to an odd start because he was in a promotion where it was 2 rounds. And I also think I wasn't able to find those fights, but it said time limit decision. So I'm thinking potentially if their fights went the full distance, it was automatically a draw. So it messed up his record a bit to start his career, as his first 6 fights, he had 4 draws. 6 of his fights have been draws. And recently he's been fighting in Shudo, though, which is a way better promotion in Japan. And he's making the move back down to 155 pounds for this fight. He won the title in Shudo about a year ago at 155, but never defended it. He instead opted to move up to 170. He won 3 fights at 170. He just fought September 19th at 170 pounds. So hopefully with the international travel, he doesn't have issues making the weight. The last time that Nishikawa lost in MMA was in 2018. So it's been a while. The level of competition for Nishikawa has been low. So he's a lot to prove here against Magomed Mustafaev. For Mustafaev, the guy's a beast. He's a hell of an athlete. And the only thing that's really been holding him back is just inactivity. He's been in the UFC for a long time, and he's been able to fight some of the top guys, and he hasn't been able to get over the hump. Like, he has a couple of big losses. For instance, his last fight to Brad Riddell, he lost to Kevin Lee, but he's been able to dominate and tear through some guys, show his skill level. He beat Rafael Fiziev, who's now in the top 10, top 5 of that weight class, and it's just he hasn't been able to string fights together. He's had a lot of inactivity, but this is a good fight for him. You know, he's going to be in front of a real, probably fan-friendly crowd for him because he's going to be Russian, and a lot of people are going to be there for Islam and all that. And it should be, a good night for him if he performs well. But this young guy, Yamato Nishikawa, he's a good kickboxer. He's very fast, good feints. He controls distance pretty well with the in-and-out movement. He switches stances, and he throws a lot of volume. Nice kicks on the outside. He'll throw good leg kicks, body kicks, good front kicks to the face. And sometimes he doesn't set his kicks up great and he can be countered, but he has fast hands and basically likes to snipe straight shots. He'll attack the body, come up to the head, and he has okay power. I wouldn't say he has knockout power, but it's pretty good power, I guess. And on the inside, he has good knees, but they've gotten him taken down. I've seen on multiple occasions he doesn't really throw those knees with the best intent in terms of the setup, but defensively, he doesn't really move his head. He's hittable. If you get him to exchange in the pocket, you can definitely get to him there. I've seen him get overzealous in a fight where he dropped an opponent with a spinning back fist, came in the pocket, tried to go for the kill, and got knocked out himself. And it seems like he does slow down a little bit. His movement isn't as good as the fights go on, and a lot of his fights have only been 2-round fights. One thing about it, though, is I haven't seen his last few fights or the majority of them, and those have been 3-round fights. And being so young, you can improve rapidly. So that's something that we don't really know. He could have better cardio, but he does like to mix it up, and he'll use his speed to get fighters to overextend, then hit the double. And on top, he's pretty effective. Good back takes. He floats well on top. He could transition. Good ground and pound. In a recent fight against Kazumasa Sugawara, he Imanari rolled in for a leg lock. He was really forcing the grappling against a higher level striker than himself, and he ended up jumping on the back, standing, and hit a standing rear naked choke. It looks like he has questionable defensive wrestling. In a fight of his from 2018, he got taken down in the clinch, controlled on the ground. Didn't really show the best ability to get up off of his back, and he was throwing up some submissions, but none of them got really close. And as the fight went on, his activity on bottom was lesser and lesser. Late in the round, he was able to get the back after defending a takedown and showed a good ability to control, float on top, and throw that nice ground and pound, and he ended up salvaging a draw in that one. But then you do look at him in more recent fights, like when he fought Yuki Kawana, he was taken down pretty easily, but his ground and pound off his back was pretty impressive. I mean, I was surprised at the ability that he had to generate power with punches off the bottom, and he was landing some nice elbows. And I feel like he would have lost that fight, especially if it was in the United States, most likely, because over there in Japan, they stopped those fights real early in comparison to the US. In Shudo, for some reason, like, they'll stop a fight for blood or they'll stop a fight for a broken nose, and that's what happened there with the Nishikawa fight. They stopped it due to a broken nose in the 5th round, and Nishikawa was losing that whole fight against Kawana pretty much. It was competitive, and you could have given Nishikawa a couple rounds, but I felt like he was en route to losing. And yeah, so it wouldn't have been a win for him if he would have went to decision there, I believe. But a lot of fighters do also have some issues fighting outside of Japan, and he's going to be fighting in Abu Dhabi this time, so it's not as bad as traveling to the US, but you have to think about a little bit about the travel and the short notice. I wasn't able to find his last 3 fights, so being 19, even though it hasn't been that long of a time period, he could have improved a lot. But this is a big test for him. If he can win this fight, I mean, that would be really impressive. I think he could establish himself as a maybe future UFC title contender. To beat a guy like Mustafaev at 19 years old, that would be pretty good. But Mustafaev, like I said, he's been in the UFC for over 7 years, but he's not had 2 fights in the same year since 2015. He's only fought 5 times in 7 years. And last time we saw him was in February of 2020, lost to Brad Riddell. He had 3 fights since then scrapped. He did show up to fight Demir Magulov, and he came in 7 pounds overweight. That's a little bit alarming. That fight ended up not happening. And then he was scheduled to fight Jimmy Malarkey on this card, but Malarkey was forced out, and now he's getting this Japanese fighter. But he's a guy that can beat anyone on any given night. He proved that when he took out Rafael Fiziev in under 1 minute. And if he can get some momentum, string some wins together, he could get ranked. But he has to stay more active. He's 34 years old. He has no time to waste anymore. And with Mustafaev, very explosive, powerful guy, super fast. He on the feet is very dangerous because he'll throw heavy counter punches, great speed. He has real good 1-2s, good uppercuts, good overhands. He's sharp with his counters. I think he's going to be very dangerous in this fight on the counter for Nishikawa and could knock him out. He lands heavy, clean punches, and he also has very good in and out movement, and he'll throw some nice kicks on the outside, so he's good with the lower body as well. Good body kicks, good head kicks, spinning attacks. He'll throw flying knees. He was able to catch Rafael Fiziev with the spinning attack really early in the fight. And that's one thing about Mustafaev that I like is he tends to right away be very aggressive and have the range and distance really quickly in the fight. He does a good job of being able to land those spin kicks right off the bat, which a lot of people struggle to do that. And Mustafaev also has the wrestling ability as well. So that's one thing that I think he's going to have the advantage in is being able to get the takedown. But the one thing about it is he does have some ability off of his back, but sometimes he can end up on bottom because of all those spins and jumping and all that. And if he ends up on his back with Nishikawa, I think he could be controlled and maybe be in a little bit of trouble, especially if he starts to get tired. So he has to really, be aware not to end up on bottom against Nishikawa, because I think that's the best chance that Nishikawa has to have success in this fight. But his wrestling is really good defensively and offensively, and I don't see Nishikawa being able to just take him down. It would have to be off of a mistake from Mustafaev. His control on the ground is not that good when he gets takedowns. That was evident in his last fight against Brad Riddell. He got a lot of takedowns, a lot of mat returns, but very little control time on the ground, and ended up losing a split decision in a fight where he had about, I believe 7, 8, 9 takedowns. But with this fight, I believe Mustafaev definitely should win this fight, either by grinding out with his wrestling or getting the knockout. I just think he's much further along in his career. He's fought much better fighters. He's a lot older, and he hasn't won a fight in over 3 years, so that is a little bit scary. But unless he comes back a shell of himself, I don't see him losing here. I wouldn't definitely not justify betting him at minus 550 or even betting on him at all because, like I said, he hasn't gotten a win over 3 years. We did see him come in against Ismagulov 8 pounds overweight, and he's 34 years old at this time, which isn't super old, but who knows? I mean, if you come in that overweight, you haven't fought in almost 2 years at this point, you haven't gotten a win in almost 3 years, I mean, maybe your body's deteriorating on you, and Nishikawa can come in and get a big win as an underdog, so I would lean more towards that if I was betting on it, but I would see this as a total pass. You can't trust the 19-year-old kid coming in here on short notice, coming to Abu Dhabi to fight a beast like Mustafaev. You have to think Mustafaev will get the job done, but a little bit of a sketchy fight there. But I'm going to pick Mustafaev to win by decision.